Over the past 30 years, we have developed wonderful technology, but the technology has gotten away from us. And our body now responds to a buzz or a vibration or a ding or a notification with this alarm system because you don't know if it's good news or bad news until you respond to it. And so we are now living in elevated cortisol because of the technology. We were never designed to live inside of cortisol. The majority of your sex hormones you make in your sleep. And if you wake up during the night, you're making less hormone. The problem is we've normalized stress at this moment in time. And so we can't tell the difference if we're stressed or not because we just think it's normal. We're supposed to run at this ridiculous pace. Today, you're accessible 24/7. And we know that a lot of companies and employers don't have boundaries. And that's an issue. Your bedroom should be for intimacy and sleeping. You don't want to work on your bed because then you get an association with stress on your bed. So with the help of our chief medical officer, I took my personal estrogen level down to near to zero. And I started getting hot flashes every hour for about 4 weeks. And it was unbearable. Absolutely unbearable. Some men, when they take testosterone, it converts to estrogen. Man boobs, sensitive nipples, that all happens. It's a real thing.
Welcome to the Superhuman Blueprint Podcast.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Superhuman Blueprint Podcast. I'm Drew Griesel, your host and the founder of Primal Wellness Coaching. Today, I am talking to a very interesting subject matter expert. But before I get into that, I need your help. If you like this show, subscribe, give us a rating, leave us a review, and share episodes that resonate with people that they would be meaningful to. All right, let's talk about today. Today, we are going to unpack some really interesting things around hormones. So consider this. If you are feeling constantly tired or wired or anxious, and even when you're eating right and you're training and you're doing all of the healthy things, this episode's for you. Today, I'm talking to Justin Hai, who is the co-founder of Rebalance Health and the author of the new book, Stress Nation, which is focused around uncovering how our obsession with technology and its constant stimulation is quietly hijacking cortisol. As you know, cortisol is the stress hormone, but it is also the master hormone that drives our energy and our focus and our recovery. And the situation is this: if you don't fix cortisol, then no amount of sleep or supplements or caffeine is going to break the cycle of burnout that you are going to go into. Justin Hai, welcome to the Superhuman Blueprint Podcast.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it is a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm very excited to unpack the many things in which you have subject matter expertise and also to talk about your book and your company. But let's just kind of start with the good stuff. So let's talk hormones.
Yeah, let's talk hormones. Let's try and set the record straight and demystify hormones.
Let's do it. So let's start with cortisol. So I've seen you reference cortisol as the master hormone. Most of us know cortisol as the stress hormone. So can you elaborate on why cortisol is the master hormone?
Yeah, absolutely. Almost every molecule in the human body has a cortisol receptor. No other hormone does. So when cortisol is elevated, you feel it systemically from your head to your toe. You just feel it everywhere. And cortisol is an amazing hormone, and it shouldn't be demonized, right? It just shouldn't be. It's a fabulous hormone. We need it for insulin control, blood sugar levels, sleep-wake cycles. We need it for so many things, digestion, etc. Problem is, over the past 30 years, we are simply making too much of it. Yeah. It's that simple. And what cortisol's job is to keep you safe. That is what cortisol's job is, to keep you safe. It's your built-in alarm system. And we've all heard of it as the stress hormone or the fight or flight hormone. Yep. Okay. So basically, cortisol is just literally in the background, operating, running. And when it feels like you're under stress or danger, it elevates and it wakes you up. It's your alarm system. Traditionally, you're being chased by a bear or a saber-toothed tiger. It's what's there. Then the adrenaline kicks in. That's the action hormone. And off you go, right? And then you're supposed to calm down. Yep. The house is on fire. Boom. Wake up the alarm, adrenaline. You run out the house. You grab whatever you need. You run out the house. And then it calms back down. The problem over the past 30 years is quite simply that we have developed wonderful technology, but the technology has gotten away from us. And our body now responds to a buzz or a vibration or a ding or a notification with the same alarm system because you don't know if it's good news or bad news until you respond to it. And so we are now living in elevated cortisol because of the way we live our lives and have integrated technology. We were never designed to live inside of cortisol. We were designed to have small bursts inside of it. Now, that's basically what cortisol is. So it's a really good hormone. We just make too much of it today. Our brains make too much. Here's the cause and effect and why it's the master hormone. If it is too high, cortisol is too high in the evenings, it will prevent you from going to sleep and it will prevent you from staying asleep. Big deal. Well, here's the big deal, aha, epiphany moment. You make all your hormones in your sleep.
Yeah.
Not everything, but let's just be a bit more generalized, right? I'm sure a doctor can pick it apart and say, well, technically you can make testosterone here. Yeah, absolutely. But the majority of your sex hormones you make in your sleep. And if you wake up during the night, that is medically diagnosed as a poor night's sleep. And so you're making less hormones that you need in order to function effectively the next day. Too many consecutive nights of poor sleep, meaning you wake up or you don't get 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep, and you're on a downward spiral and you are making less and less hormones. So cortisol controls your ability to manufacture the correct amount of hormones naturally whilst you sleep. And that's why I call it the master hormone.
And so I have 2 little kids and I never get 7, 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. So I'm screwed, it sounds like.
Not screwed, but yes, there are times in our lives in which we have children in which typically we don't get a lot of sleep, right? It's kind of like you go to college and you study and you pull some all-nighters, to get some sleep. But if you look at the time frame in which we're supposed to have children, which is earlier on in our lives than we are currently having children,
Guilty.
we were designed to be able to handle that, right? Yeah. People having kids in their 40s and 50s is miraculous and wonderful, but you're operating at a substantially reduced hormone production levels than you would if you were in your 20s or in your early 30s.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the biology around it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a political statement. It's not a social engagement. It's simple biology, how the human body was designed and how we function.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, fortunately for me, I know a thing or two about wellness and hormones. So I've got the systems in place to support the kids waking up at 3 a.m. to go pee or whatever.
Yeah. And it's not indefinite, right? It's a short period of time.
I hope so.
The problem is at the moment, we're all going to run the rest of our lives with technology disrupting our circadian rhythm unless we get knowledgeable and do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about.
Quick break from our chat with Justin. If you have been feeling like your energy and your focus and your drive just aren't what they used to be, listen up. I have finally opened up some capacity to take on a few new private coaching clients. This is coaching for executives and high performers who feel stuck in what I call the silent decline, which is that slow fade in energy and motivation and edge that sneaks up on you when stress and hormones and lifestyle are out of balance. So if that sounds familiar, I will help you to identify what is holding you back and help you to create a personalized system to optimize your performance and your body composition and your focus without adding more chaos to your life. So this is meant to fit into a busy schedule. Go to primalwellnesscoaching.com/executive edge. That is primalwellnesscoaching.com/executive edge. Book a call. Let's talk. So what would you say would be signs that someone might be able to observe within themselves or maybe within someone that they're close to that their cortisol is out of balance?
Well, I think the problem is that we've glorified working hard to the nth degree now, which has gone beyond reasonable. If you're snappy, you're moody, you can't lose weight, your menopause symptoms are exacerbated, meaning you have unbearable hot flashes, mood swings, weight gain. Men, you can't lose weight, you're eating right. Men and women, you're eating right, you're exercising right, you can't lose weight. You can't keep muscle mass on, you're losing your hair prematurely, your hair, skin, and nails look dull, they can't grow, they're not as strong. Those are all signs of a lack of hormone production, which is derived from poor sleep, which is derived from elevated cortisol. The problem is we've normalized stress at this moment in time. And so we can't tell the difference if we're stressed or not because we just think it's normal. We're supposed to run at this ridiculous pace.
It's a badge of honor for some people.
It's not a badge of honor. It really isn't. That I'm a 4:30 riser, but I go to bed before 9 o'clock in the evening, right? So I set myself up so I can get good quality sleep. There's a whole period of time where it was like, I get 3 hours of sleep. I get 4 hours of sleep. That's not good. And there's always going to be that one person. Well, I don't need it. Sorry, you do. You just don't realize it.
Yep. There's person that says they don't need it. There's the person that says I can drink a triple espresso and then go right to sleep and sleep just fine. Well, you're probably not sleeping. You might be asleep, but you're probably not sleeping just fine.
You are 100% correct. There is a very big difference between sleeping and getting the correct amount of deep REM and light sleep in order to produce the hormones you need. And we really want to look at our deep sleep. REM is important and light's important, but deep sleep is kind of a good measure. And you want between 60 and 90 minutes of deep sleep.
Yep.
Most people have Oura Rings or Fitbits or Whoops or whatever device you want that can track your sleep. Go have a look at your sleep. See how many times you woke up. See if you managed to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and
Yep.
see if you managed to get that 60 to 90 minutes of deep sleep or more, which would be amazing.
Yeah. I'm gonna confess something right now. So my first foray into the wellness space, out from moving on from fitness and nutrition, was sleep. I realized how important sleep was, and how so many people are just not getting the sleep that they need. Not necessarily like the hours of sleep, that too, but just the quality of sleep. And so I learned about the sleep cycles, and I learned about sleep hygiene. And so I started working sleep hygiene coaching into the coaching I was doing, which is great and it's important, but the hormone thing was a total miss for me. That's really only I'm only a couple years into like really appreciating and understanding what the impact of hormonal balance and having the right systems in place does for everything.
Yeah, it's important, but it hasn't been emphasized historically. We've always emphasized exercise. We've emphasized water intake. We've emphasized diet and nutrition and macros and so forth. And we've said sleep is important, but I think for the masses, the connection between you make your hormones in your sleep for the next day, that was a miss. Honestly, that was a miss for me until I jumped into this topic and this subject matter. Okay.
Yep. It's really interesting. So you mentioned before the technology, so kind of the constant feedback that we're getting from technology and what it's doing to us. I understand there's also there's a dopamine hit, right, with certain things, not necessarily getting a phone call or a text message, but we get on the social media. And personally, I've removed Instagram from my personal social media, like my phone, because I found that every time I picked up my phone, I was looking at Instagram completely subconsciously for no reason whatsoever. I'd pick up my phone to, I don't know, check the weather, and I'm looking at Instagram, and it's ridiculous. So now I use it for business. So I have it on a tablet that I keep in the office that I take out when I need to post something for my business. But people become addicted to that, right? And so there's dopamine and there's cortisol. So what's the interplay there?
Well, basically dopamine is the high, is the rush, right? You're looking for that fix. That's what dopamine is. You're constantly looking. Cortisol doesn't give you that same kind of response.
Yeah.
Right? Cortisol is just your alarm system. And I think we've become immune to understanding if we're stressed at that level. People say, yeah, I'm stressed at work, I'm stressed, but they don't truly understand what the cause and effect is and how they can identify it in their body, because I would imagine they're stressed all the time. And they're just saying I'm stressed, but even when they come home and they relax, they're still stressed because they can't turn this off.
Yeah.
The dopamine hit is absolutely right. And the technology companies, and look, I use technology. I'm on social media, right? Not personally, but for work. And I totally get it. We have to use it. It's not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. So the book is not designed to kind of convince you that, it's the devil. It's not the point. The point is we have to learn how to integrate it now with a bit more responsibility as human beings and how we function as human beings, because we haven't evolved in thousands of years. We are still the same human beings from thousands of years ago, right? Really, we are. We have not evolved. Technology that has been this disruptive only came out in the mid to late 90s, right? So it's relatively new, but it has had a immense effect on the human body and how we function our day-to-day lives. So it's not going anywhere. It's a wonderful tool. We just need to learn now to put some boundaries around it. Yeah. And one of the things that we spoke about before was screen time, right? Now, I'm guilty of this 100%, right? We all think screen time was for our kids. Yes, our kids, they can get 30 minutes. They're 5 years old, maybe 10 years old. They're going to get X amount of time. And as they get a little bit more and it gets shut off at a certain time. The screen time is not designed just for children. It's designed for all of us. Do you put it on your phone, Drew?
I actually do have a screen time report on the homepage of my phone that I never, ever look at.
Right.
It's right there and I never look at it.
We don't put parameters, right? I don't put it on mine, right? Yep. And I remember before I started the company and wrote the book, back in the mid 2000s and so forth, I'm like, but I need it for work. That's my excuse, right? But was it really? No, I was playing some game or I was doing something on the internet or reading something, right? And so as adults, we justify it. But it's no different as if we would control it for our kids. We should learn to control it for ourselves, because the last thing we want to be doing is working on screens all day, coming home. And correct me if I'm wrong, most adults these days, they're sitting in front of the TV and they're on their phone at the same, they're double screening. They're double screening, right? And we justify it. And we've got to learn to disconnect and reground ourselves, get out in nature more, do things away from technology in order to rebalance our lives.
Yeah, 100%. I just did an interview with a neuroscientist, Dr. Chris Bray, and he was talking about, he works with a lot of like large corporations doing kind of wellness at work stuff with them. And he's talking about brain breaks. You're working a desk job, you're stuck on a computer all day long, but you need those brain breaks. Every 90 minutes or so, you need to get up and remove yourself for at least 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and don't bring your phone with you.
100%. Go for a walk, do something different, different, for sure.
Yep. So with the devices, I'm curious. So we touched on kind of the dopamine hits that you can get from just certain types of interactions with those, but then there's also like blue light, and then there's just like the noise of having these interactive things with us at all times. So is there like a particular offender when it comes to keeping that cortisol elevated, or do they all just kind of contribute to create one mess?
Yeah, they all contribute to a big mess.
Okay.
Just for the audience, blue light is the same frequency as sunlight. And so when you get up in the morning, the first thing you should do is get your body into the sunlight if you're able to, right? It might not have risen yet, but if you're able to, get your body into the sun, because that helps stimulate more cortisol, because you want high cortisol in the morning. That gives you your energy. You'll get up and go, helps wake you up. That's the moment you want cortisol, but healthy cortisol, right? So you want that. Blue light emitted from screens, technology, even light bulbs, to be quite honest, right? Emits blue light. And that blue light emulates sunlight. So your body can't tell the difference. So it thinks it's morning and now it starts releasing more cortisol. That's the problem with blue light. So yes, you can get blue light lenses on your glasses, whether it's reading glasses or just blue light glasses for people that don't need actual optical glasses. And it helps protect your eyes. Definitely a good thing. But a better practice is try to stay away from screens as part of your sleep hygiene.
Yep. And it screens, some devices, iPhones, Androids, do have like a filter, so they can filter out some of that blue light. You can set it to turn on at a particular time. It's not
absolutely. But if you get a bad email or you look at the news or something else happens, that's going to trigger your cortisol too. Yeah. And so, you really can't avoid it. Yeah, blue light is one contributing factor, but the content itself is a contributing factor. Yep. And so trying to simply turn it off and go device and screen free at least 2 hours before bed minimum, right?
Yep.
And that will help, because it's like when we're kids, you watch a horror movie before bed and you don't get to sleep, right? Your cortisol is elevated, right? Don't have coffee, right? Why? It's going to give you caffeine and it's going to help trigger, again, either energy, a cortisol spike, what have you. So just being smart about preparing yourself for sleep, in that sleep hygiene kind of new trendy word that everyone's using, is try and get yourself prepared for sleep. And the idea in that 2 to 3 hours before bed is to wind down even more than you already are. Get yourself so relaxed, whether it's a hot shower, hot bath, steam, go for a light walk, read a book, don't drink alcohol, don't have a meal, don't watch a horror movie, don't watch the news. That's going to have the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Right? You want to get yourself completely wind down. What the book talks about in an interesting way is before technology, right? So 60s, 70s, whatever, up to about the 90s, our days, we had endings, right? Work ended, right? Yep. You didn't have a cell phone, right? And so when you left work, you were relatively untouchable. We could call you at your home line, but you're relatively unavailable until you went back the next day. You left your work. Some people brought work home, but essentially you left work and you weren't accessible. Today, you're accessible 24/7. And we know that a lot of companies and employers don't have boundaries.
Yep. 100%.
That's an issue. Even think of television. I'm not going to go back too far here, but when I was a kid and I wanted to watch TV late at night and I was being really naughty, what happened was at midnight, you'd see the national anthem on the TV screen with the flag waving, the stars and the stripes.
Okay.
And then as soon as the national anthem stopped playing, it went to static snow.
No way. Really?
Yeah, that was it. Static snow. There was no more TV.
Time to go to bed.
Time to go to bed.
You're already up too late, buddy. Go to sleep.
Yeah, you could try and put a VHS in and try and watch a movie on cassette, but that was about it. Essentially, television was over. There wasn't a Cartoon Network. There was a cartoon kind of morning channel series. So you'd watch your cartoons in the morning and you were done, right? It was a news hour, not a news station, right? So when there was a true breaking news alert, it was few and far between. Today, everything is a breaking alert, right? And there's a news channel 24/7. And so there were endings, and that helped us keep our natural circadian rhythm. We don't have endings anymore. We are being bombarded with content, good and bad, all the time. You can wake up in the night and the last thing you should do is go reach for that phone, because as soon as you do, it's pretty much game over.
Yeah, I've heard great success stories from people of simply sleeping with their phone in a different room, just to kind of about what that did for their own like mental wellness, like not even considering just their quality of sleep, but just not having the phone next to them at all times. And most people can't really fathom the concept of not having their phone with them at all times.
Go get an old-fashioned alarm clock.
Yeah, they're still out there.
They are still available. But yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, your bedroom should be for intimacy and sleeping. You don't want to work on your bed because then you get an association with stress on your bed, right? You just don't want to do it. You don't want to sit there with your laptop going to work. It's not healthy. It violates those sleep hygiene guidelines. You want to make sure that your bedroom is cool, really cold, like in the low 60s to mid 60s. That's the ideal temperature. Your body actually drops its temperature when you go to sleep. And to stay asleep, you want to keep yourself cool. And you know, I know there could be some people listening that are going through perimenopause, menopause, and that seems like an oxymoron because I'm having hot flashes. So we've got a solution to help with that as well. But essentially, you want to set yourself up for success by keeping your room cool. You want to sleep naked if you possibly can, because even polyester and those types of materials that people sleep in, they make you hot, and that will exacerbate your heat. Men have hot flashes, by the way. Men, you know, they throw the covers off in their sleep. I'm hot, I'm just going to throw the covers off. You're having a hot flash, my friend, because men go through the same symptoms as women, but for 40 years, because it starts in their mid-30s and ends in their 70s. It's called andropause. And
I just heard that term for the first time, maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah, and women go through it for 7 to 14 years. So they go through it much faster, right? Yeah. And so everything is exacerbated. It's amplified to, you know, a factor of 100 times, right? Yeah. So men do suffer from similar symptoms, but they're very, very mild in contrast to women. And so men are going through the same symptoms. They're gaining weight. They're losing their testosterone production, their estrogen production. They're having a tough time with their mental clarity and so forth. Men go through the same symptoms, but it's stretched over a much longer period. So the symptoms are very mild.
Yeah. And I want to unpack all three of those things. So you mentioned perimenopause, menopause, andropause. So I want to talk about all those. But we've also mentioned the book a few times. So let's just, for the sake of our listeners here, can you just give a kind of an overview of what's the purpose of the book? Like, what do you cover? What should people expect to get out of the book?
Okay, so the book is the why behind Rebalance Health. It's called Stress Nation: Escape the Technology Trap, Eliminate Stress, and Reclaim Rest. I'm honored it became a national bestseller in the first week of release.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you very much. And it really talks about what we're discussing today, the why. How did we get to this place that we're in today in 2025? Because it is radically different than where we were in, say, 1990. From a human perspective, not a technology perspective or an economy or political or social, whatever. It's about how we function as humans, because menopause has always been a problem and women have suffered for a long time, but they are suffering at a higher rate today than they ever have in the history of women and menopause and humankind. And so this book kind of goes through how technology has played a role in amplifying cortisol in our bodies and explaining what cortisol does at a very basic level. I don't like explaining things at high medical and sophisticated language because it doesn't make sense to a majority of people, including myself. And so it's important to speak at a level that people can comprehend. And this book is written that way. Okay. And it uses a lot of analogy, a lot of nostalgia, and kind of goes through how we ended up where we are today and why and how to fix it. It's not one of those, we have this problem, right? It's yes, we have this problem, but this is how you can fix it. Every chapter helps you solve the problem with very simple tips and suggestions that have been proven time and time again.
Yep. Okay. Amazing. Okay. Let's talk about Well, let's get into specific hormonal interactions. So, can you talk about the interplay between cortisol, whether it's elevated or whether it's low on insulin? Like, do you have much familiarity with the whole insulin interaction?
There's lots of cause and effects between cortisol, insulin, glucose, hormone production, sleep.
Yeah.
There's lots of it, but that can get a little complex. And I don't feel like that tells the story in a way that people can relate to.
Okay, got
Is
it.
that fair?
Yeah, that's totally fair. I know there's interplay and like insulin sensitivity and all that like often stems from what's happening with your cortisol.
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk about ghrelin. We can talk about,
Yeah.
GERD. We can talk about so many different things. But for the masses, I think it's easier to break it down in a way that people can comprehend and then reiterate and actually take to practice. And I feel sometimes when we get too deep into that kind of science, we lose people.
Okay, got it. All right. So ladies first. So let's talk about, and I mentioned this to you before we hit record. I have a lot of women in my life right now. I'm in my early 40s. I have a lot of women that are maybe a few years or just starting to enter perimenopause. And there is not a lot of general knowledge about what perimenopause is, what happens to the female body during perimenopause, what's going on with the hormones, and kind of like what's the life cycle of perimenopause. So I guess starting from a standpoint of, well, I guess you clearly have familiarity with this. So can you just describe perimenopause, and then can we backtrack and talk about cortisol and what that's doing throughout perimenopause?
Yeah, so perimenopause is when a woman's estrogen progesterone ratios and cycles start to flail, for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah.
They don't become predictable. They're not as regular, and so all of a sudden, you're missing a cycle. You get early cycle. There's bleeding throughout the menstrual cycle at strange places, and that's a good indication that a woman in her 80s is beginning to go through perimenopause. Menopause is when you've had 365 days and you haven't had a cycle.
Okay,
That's it. It's one day. It's the 366th day in which you haven't cycled. Menopause, wonderful. Now you're postmenopausal. So menopause is not the period. It's an event that happens on one day, specifically 366th day. Perimenopause is really what people are talking about, right? They're talking about that period in which, life becomes very unpredictable in regards to my hormones, how I'm feeling. People suffer from mood dysregulation, brain fog, sleep pattern disruption. Bodies start to change, right? Everything changes, right? My muscle mass is hard to keep on. Maybe I got a little extra tummy fat. People talk about the tummy, men and women, and it's, they talk about this cortisol belly, right? And those are types of symptoms that should show up. And that's a good indication you're going through perimenopause.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the hormones then. So cortisol, what's the interplay here?
Well, cortisol it's the same across all our lives, right? We want cortisol to be moments of high alert and then get out of it. We don't want to live in high cortisol.
Yeah.
And when we live in high cortisol, the cause and effect is the same for everybody. Okay. If you can't get your cortisol down when you're trying to get ready for bed and go to sleep, right? If your cortisol has been high all day and stays up there, you're going to have a hard time falling asleep. And you had a hard time staying asleep. You make your hormones in your sleep. So when you're going through perimenopause, you're going through andropause, you're just making less hormones, right? They're dropping rapidly around early 40s, mid 40s. They really drop testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen, men and women, right? Obviously different quantities for men and different quantities for women, but they drop. Men have more of a straight line drop. So it's gradual from 30s through 70. It drops roughly 1% testosterone a year is what men are losing, right? But women have a much more dramatic drop, and it's over a shorter period of time. And that's where that perimenopause phase comes in. But you are still making estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, right? Up until a certain point. Okay. And so when you're sleeping, your body makes however little hormones that your body is able to produce.
Right.
And it's intelligent enough to know what you need. And if you get the 7 to 8 hours of sleep, right, you're able to produce those hormones. And we've seen in our studies, in our clinical studies, that women's symptoms get significantly reduced, like 80% reduced. Okay. And some women completely.
When they're managing their cortisol.
When they're
getting good sleep.
When they're managing their cortisol, which enables them to get good sleep.
Okay. Got it.
Right. All things considered, between sleep hygiene, diet, exercise, all things considered. But when cortisol is being managed correctly, they're able to naturally produce hormones they need, and their symptoms seem to be subsided substantially, if not go away. That's kind of how cortisol interacts. If cortisol is normal and stays normal and you have the great natural rhythms that you should, women seem to be doing just fine. And so cortisol really is, in our opinions, in our studies, and again, we've got 4 IRB clinical studies, including open label, double blind, and single blind placebos that have been published in medical journals. It proves that when women can get their sleep, that their symptoms are substantially reduced. And the
Yeah.
same for men. Men's symptoms go away. We hear women saying, my hot flashes have gone, my libido's back, I've lost my little belly, I'm down 2 pant sizes, I'm more even in my mood, I'm happier, I recover faster, right? These are the types of feedback that we get. And then with men, the same thing. I'm not snappy. I'm more focused. I'm packing on the muscle again. I'm losing the weight. I'm getting sleep, and my libido's back, and my energy's back. Those are the feedback that we get from our customers on a daily basis.
Amazing. So kind of tying back to something we were talking about earlier. So for the folks, particularly the women in this instance that are having children later in life, having children when they're closer to 40, you're not going to get good sleep for several years. Like it's going to be really bad for the first year or two, and then it's still not going to be great for a while beyond that. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Actually, now that I'm thinking about that, does the hormonal impact of becoming pregnant and delivering a child, would that cause any sort of delay to the onset of perimenopause? Do you know?
I wouldn't know. I don't
Okay.
have that knowledge or that
Yeah, I'm
experience.
just thinking about that in the moment. Like I wonder, because those are the different life cycles, right? There's the hormonal life cycles that women go through. There's the fertility, and then the becoming pregnant if they become pregnant, and then perimenopause, and then postmenopause.
Have you ever heard stories of women that say, I tried for years on IVF and different fertility drugs, and I stopped, and then a year later I fell pregnant?
Yeah.
Right? You know why? Right? Because the actual process of going through IVF is so stressful, right? That the woman's hormone production is reduced. And the moment that they relax and they take it easy, the hormone production increases, and voila, most women fall pregnant. It's that pressure, that stress that reduces the natural hormone production.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you have any particular guidance that you give to men that are wanting to support women as they're going through this?
Yeah, it's funny because I wanted some empathy. I wanted to truly understand or get a glimpse of what it was like for women. So with the help of our chief medical officer, I took my personal estrogen level down to near to zero.
Okay.
And I started getting hot flashes every hour. And we did this as an experiment. And I went through hot flashes for about 4 weeks. And it was unbearable, absolutely unbearable. I only lasted 4 weeks. I said, I need to stop because I can't function, right? And so can you imagine going through that for 7 to 14 years as a woman? I mean, so the amount of love, compassion, and appreciation I have now for our customers and people that reach out to me and the women in my life is immense. It is really absolutely intolerable. Absolutely. You can't handle it. And so the advice I give is just be really understanding. And it's a long period of time, but you're there as a partner to be supporting, loving, nurturing. And, if you have to live in an igloo and you need to wear ski clothing to bed because your partner is suffering with immense hot flashes, then you do it.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do to fix it. I mean, yes, we can recommend our products at Rebalance and read the book, and you can hopefully have minimal kind of side effects of going through perimenopause, the symptoms. But essentially, you've got to be a loving, caring, compassionate person to support your loved one through this process. And there's nothing wrong with the woman, by the way. This is natural. And I think a lot of people have kind of made it up to be something that it isn't. It's a natural phase of life. It's not a disease state. There's nothing wrong. It's a natural, it's like going through puberty, right? And a lot of people have, told women that they're imagining it. I know doctors have said, you suck it up, and there's no empathy there. It's like going through puberty, and puberty isn't fun.
Yeah.
Not fun. So can you imagine going through puberty over and over again later in life, but having these types of kind of symptoms of hot flashes, brain fog, and everything else that women experience? It's not fun. And so really truly understanding that is part of the equation. I think what the book does is help explain to men and women the reason why. And the one thing that we need to kind of truly protect is our sleep. It's all about our sleep. And Rebalance Health, the company, we have supplements to support this, again, clinically proven, that help support cortisol throughout the day and the night so that you can get sleep. Because you're not going to use your phone. And so what the supplements do is help combat the elevated cortisol that the devices provide and help bring your cortisol levels back into normal levels so that you can function. And that's the premise of it, because it's not going away.
So yes, in that regard, tell us a little bit about Rebalance Health, about your company.
So Rebalance Health started off as a mission to help people with cortisol, because we had a kind of hypotheses that cortisol sleep hormones was connected, and we just didn't know at what level. And so we started off with bringing a man's system and a women's system to help lower cortisol levels. And it was, a product in the morning, product in the afternoon, and a product at night. And it's evolved over the years because we've refined it with clinicals and studies and so forth. And now we've got 3 products that you take during the day, depending on who you are. So if you're a man, we recommend Man Mints. And they're literally lozenges packed with all kinds of adaptogens from Ayurvedic and Chinese cultures. They're little lozenges. You pop them in your mouth. They taste like they are mints, basically. They're like Altoids, bigger Altoids. And you just suck on them throughout the day. You take them every 3 to 4 hours, and you suck on them. It helps keep you calm. And then you take a Dream at night, and that is what helps you stay asleep and help keep cortisol at bay at night and help you last throughout the day and the evening. Like I said, there's 3 products. There's Man Mints for men. There's Mellow Mints for men and women. Absolutely, if you feel like that's a more appropriate product. Or there's Meno Mints for women going through perimenopause. And so there's a product line through the day. You don't need all of them. Just pick one. They all relatively do the same thing, which is help support, keep cortisol down. Yeah. But men don't want to take Meno Mint and women don't want to take Man Mint. So there's a product designed for men, a product designed for women. And you simply suck on them and they're absorbed into the body and helps keep you calm. It takes the edge off. Yeah. And like I said, clinically proven specifically for perimenopause in the Meno Mints line, was acknowledged by Time Magazine last year as one of the best interventions of the year, and third-party reviewed and other studies done by other companies on our products, specifically our products. Yeah. And I'll take this moment to kind of differentiate. If you look at all the supplement companies out there, you'll probably say thousands of studies on ingredients. Yeah. Not on the product. Yes. And they're trying to, I don't think people are getting fooled by that anymore. We actually tested the product, not the ingredients are already tested. There's ashwagandha, maca, L-theanine, there's GABA. All these ingredients are in our product, all the mushrooms, reishi, cordyceps, they're all in our lozenge. And so there's tons of studies on that. But we actually tested the product on humans in real studies and published them. So that's the difference. Nice. And it's interesting to look at this as a cortisol problem, because that's what these products are doing, right? They're helping to get you in a state where you can create hormonal balance specifically around cortisol and mitigate the negative implications of having chronically elevated cortisol. When most people think of sleep, they think of melatonin, right? There's the sleep hormone. But if your melatonin's out of whack, it's because of your cortisol for the most part. You're doing things wrong. And then 2, you're not, drowning yourself in supplemental melatonin isn't going to fix anything. It might help you fall asleep, but it's not fixing anything. Well, you said it absolutely correctly just then. Melatonin is not the sleep hormone. Melatonin prepares you for sleep. It doesn't put you to sleep. It helps you to sleep. And you don't actually make less melatonin. Your melatonin seems to be, to me, more of a constant. The problem is your cortisol so far out of whack that the melatonin that you produce isn't effective enough. Yeah, exactly. That's really what it is. And what's wonderful about melatonin is that you will always make it. Okay, it's the one hormone you'll always make. You can take melatonin forever, right? And you're fine. You'll still make melatonin. The problem is your tolerance is so high that the amount that you make doesn't work. So you're constantly augmenting with more and more and more and more. Kind of like alcohol, right? You build up a tolerance, and at some point you can drink more than one drink or 2 drinks. Unlike testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen, right? If you go on HRT, and after 18 months, all the studies say that you stand an 80% chance of never making that hormone ever again naturally, even if you come off the hormone, right? So that's the difference between melatonin and the rest of it. Yeah. Okay. And so when you take melatonin at night, the studies say that you should cycle melatonin, like maybe there's no actual duration that's been studied. Okay. We recommend 30 days on, 30 days off if that's the product you do, because our Dream comes in both melatonin and melatonin-free version.
Yeah.
And so we recommend, take 30 days with melatonin if you want, and then take 30 days without. So you're constantly helping your body rebalance and acclimate to it. So you're not needing higher and higher doses in order to get the effectiveness.
Yeah.
I personally use the melatonin free, but if I've had a really, really, really stressful day, I'll take the one with melatonin to help make sure that I go to sleep and stay asleep.
Yeah.
And the next day, I'll just take the regular one again. So I use it according to how I feel my body needs, what it needs at that moment in time.
Yeah.
So melatonin is a very interesting thing. But the way I like to talk about it is think of cortisol and melatonin in a race, a baton race, right? Cortisol has to hand off to melatonin. So it has to run down the hill and then hand off to melatonin, who can do its job. If cortisol doesn't run down the hill and keeps running, it can't hand off to melatonin, so melatonin can't do its job, right? So you've got to have that handoff, and that handoff requires cortisol to run down and get to a low point.
Yeah. The cycling is interesting. I do the same with caffeine, actually. So I don't like to be reliant on caffeine, but I appreciate caffeine for what it does when I need it to do it. But it's like you kind of become there. That dependency is sort of there, and then it's like you can't function without it all of a sudden.
Caffeine's actually it's fine on a after food, not before food. Caffeine after food is key, and ideally 10 hours, no sooner than 10 hours before going to bed.
Yeah.
Right. So you really want to have it in the morning. You don't want to be having coffee at lunch, in the afternoon, at night. It's not going to help. The other thing that I learned, and I think Huberman said this best, is if you're a daily coffee drinker, the caffeine won't affect your cortisol level because you've already adapted to it. But if you take caffeine and coffee, a couple of times a week, your body isn't getting constant supply of it. It will spike your cortisol.
Okay. Interesting. I hadn't heard that. I always am intentional about delaying my caffeine intake until I've been up for a couple hours so as not to kind of blunt my natural cortisol dissipation once from when I first wake up. Yeah, I hadn't heard the concept that you are not disrupting your cortisol by consuming caffeine if you're a regular caffeine consumer.
If you're a regular caffeine drinker on a full stomach in the morning, it's not going to spike anything. But if you are, again, not a regular daily user of caffeine, it will help spike your cortisol. So the argument is, yes, you want it in the morning because you want your cortisol as high as you can in the early part of the morning, because the theory is in the afternoon, you'll crash faster in terms of cortisol. It'll come down faster, and that will enable you to get better quality sleep. So the more cortisol you can promote in the morning, it'll help the afternoon wind down.
Okay, gotcha. On the subject of testosterone, so aside from the implication of poor sleep, of cortisol and poor sleep's disruption of testosterone production, does cortisol itself have any particular interplay in the production of testosterone?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware. I think stress in general, because you do produce some testosterone during the day, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, if stressed, it's going to inhibit that. So I think in general, you want to keep your cortisol within normal levels throughout the day in order to be the most efficient you can be in natural production of all the hormones.
Yeah. So you mentioned HRT, which for those that aren't familiar with the acronym, hormone replacement therapy. There's different purposes for HRT, right? For men, it's testosterone largely, but estrogen as well. For women, they have a whole gamut of hormones that they can do HRT on. What are your general thoughts on HRT? Is it appropriate? Is it not appropriate? Does it work? Should people consider it?
I think HRT is fabulous. It's a good solution to people at the right time of their life. So you make less and less hormones as you get older and older and older. And at a certain point, men don't make those hormones anymore. Like women, as they go through postmenopausal, their ovaries aren't making estrogen and progesterone anymore. And so there is great use in taking HRT at certain points throughout your life, whether it's perimenopause, postmenopause, or men later on in life. As long as you know what you're doing and what you're getting into, and the doctor is doing comprehensive hormonal testing. Okay. Men have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, but they have much higher levels of testosterone and much lower levels of estrogen, progesterone. Some men, when they take testosterone, it converts to estrogen, right? Man boobs and all the other stuff, right?
Yep.
Sensitive nipples, that all happens. It's a real thing. So you have to potentially take an estrogen blocker to make sure that testosterone doesn't convert to estrogen. So when you go on HRT, you want to make sure your doctor is a specialist, endocrinologist, or does comprehensive hormone testing, not someone that just tests testosterone and goes, we need it to be above 600. So we're going to do that random testing and get you on something to help boost it.
Yeah.
There are intermediary steps. For example, men on testosterone, as you start aging, through your 40s and 50s, you're making less and less and less testosterone. And so think about your brain, where the hypothalamus and pituitary glands, all the good stuff, are signaling to your testes to make testosterone. Okay? That signal used to be fiber optic, super fast communication, right? As you get older, you're going backwards in time. You're now getting close to dial-up, right? And it's not communicating as fast, so you're not producing as much as you used to.
Yeah.
So you can use luteinizing hormone as an example, which can amplify the signal.
Okay.
So you don't need to go straight to testosterone. You can have an intermediary supporting product like luteinizing hormone to help boost that signal and help your body make more.
Yeah.
Of course, that signal as you get older and older and older, even with the luteinizing hormone, is going to diminish. And then eventually TRT and testosterone replacement therapy might be appropriate. As long as that's a comprehensive study, I'm a big proponent of it. I'm not a proponent for one-off solutions, quick fix. I need to get jacked. I need to get more muscle. I need to do, and they do it as a quick, but they've ignored the other hormones.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine if cortisol's high, your testosterone is going to be low, right? All of a sudden you go on vacation, your cortisol drops, your testosterone goes up, and now you're on TRT and you're making too much.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of the side effects of too much testosterone is you lose your hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so there are lots of cause and effect, and it's a ratio. And there's no such thing as a standardized number, right? Your hormone ratio is unique as your thumbprint, right? That's why every human has to go through a hormone panel blood test. Then they sit with their doctor. The doctor looks at the numbers, and based on the numbers, it can't give you then ask you a whole bunch of subjective questions. Drew, how are you sleeping? How's your energy? How's your focus? How's your weight? How's your muscle mass? And based on your answers, the doctor will then give you a recommendation based on their clinical experience and their knowledge. And then they'll say, try this. Let's retest in 90 days and let's see if that's right. In 90 days, you do the same thing, comes back, asks the same questions, and be like, all right, we nailed it. Or it's a little high. Let's try and get it a little lower because you're more susceptible and your numbers went way off the chart. Or it didn't work enough. So everyone's unique. And so from what I've learned from our chief medical doctors over the years and the doctors that we've consulted with is it is a art, not necessarily just a science. And so you can't just take matters into your own hands.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. As I understand, you have some a bit of a personal experience in kind of this space with your wife having Cushing's syndrome, which admittedly I had to look that up and learn about what that was. But can you talk a little bit about kind of what that was, how it impacted your life, and how you were able to kind of use your knowledge to support that?
Absolutely. So Cushing's is an overproduction of cortisol in the body, an unreasonable level.
Okay.
Happens to very, very few people. A fraction of a percent, right? It's very rare. Amy Schumer is the most popular person in recent times that have unfortunately received that disease. And it was identified by doctors watching her and seeing that her face had kind of changed. It was getting puffy. It was getting moon face. It was getting bigger, and they had real concerns. And it turned out the doctors were right, and they helped her substantially. So that's one of the symptoms of Cushing's. That's why the term, Cushing, I forget what the term is on social media. Is it they're using the Cushing's face or something like that?
I really hadn't heard that.
And they use this term, but it's really just puffiness. It's from too much sodium or sleeping incorrectly, right? It's not truly a cortisol disorder because that's a very serious disorder. Yeah. The opposite is Addison's disease, which is when you make too little cortisol and you need more making it. So those are the two extremes. So I was about a year into Rebalance looking and researching into cortisol, and my wife was diagnosed with Cushing's.
That's spectacular is not the right word, but I mean, I guess if anyone's going to get diagnosed with that, they might as well have someone that's already deep into understanding the exact hormone that they're experiencing problems with.
Yeah, so literally the universe hitting me over the head with a brick saying, you're doing the right thing, you're on the right track. Now let's make it really worth your while to get it right.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. And so
personal stake. Yeah.
And so medications weren't helping. It got really bad at one point. I actually thought I was going to lose her. So
wow.
It was really, really bad. She couldn't sleep. She was losing weight. She just couldn't eat. She had no energy. It was really bad. And I'm not going to say that we saved her because I don't think that's the case. I think we contributed to supporting her through the research and the knowledge that we had gained within the company.
Okay.
And so really what it turned out was we were just even more maniacal to helping people, even more maniacal to getting it right, to doing the science right, to doing the testing, to getting the best ingredients, to not cutting any corners. It would be really easy for me to say, yeah, take this lozenge once a day, you're golden, and we can solve the problem. It's just not ethical and it's not right. And we don't want to be that company. If you read the book Stress Nation, it's the why. It explains why, how we got here, and you'll understand how your hormones function at a very intimate level.
Okay.
And then the lozenges were designed to help support cortisol throughout the day. It would be really easy for me to say, take one and you're good. Because we all want a shortcut. We want the easiest solution possible. But the problem that I saw was that you have something called a metabolism. And a lot of companies forget about that. So think about flu medication, cold medication, even antibiotics, pain medication. The instructions say take every 4 to 6 hours. Why? Because you have a metabolism. What you put in your body utilizes every 4 to 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take a cortisol supporting product in the morning, 6 hours later, there's none left in the body. Your metabolism has broken it down and utilized it. So you have nothing further to support cortisol throughout the rest of the day. And so it was very important to me that we made it into a delivery system that worked, but that we were very transparent that you have to keep taking these things because your life is ongoing, right? It's not changing. The stresses are still coming at you. So you need this support. And so that's why it's very important to start getting a work-life balance, understanding that you have to break the cycle. You have to find those endings again.
Okay.
And when you're in your day, taking this product will help you manage that stress level and help that cortisol get on the right natural circadian rhythm so that you can actually fall asleep and stay asleep. And so really, my wife getting the disease was really just a wake-up call to get it right.
Okay.
Don't shortcut this. Get it right. And that's what we've done.
Yeah. And how's your wife?
Thank you for asking. She's doing great.
Yeah.
She's not perfect, but she's doing great.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Health-wise.
Yeah.
Health-wise.
Yeah.
Other than health-wise, she is perfect. But it's just
absolutely. 100%.
Sorry, honey.
That's really good. And I appreciate you kind of outlining the prioritization, right? Like you have to do the right things in your life to support these balances. And then you can supplement that with supplements. And then beyond that, then you can go to the more kind of extreme route, like a HRT or something like that. But yeah, there should be like a logical sequence to how you are caring for yourself in this regard.
Absolutely. There's always different steps of intensity, right? Right. You can't just run a marathon tomorrow without expecting either you won't complete it or you're going to be exceptionally sore or could get an injury, right? You have to train towards it. It's the same thing. We've taken our bodies and kind of the vices of the world for granted for too long. We can't fix it overnight. It's going to take a little bit of time and a journey and some knowledge. And once we get that knowledge and we go on our journey, people find balance. They're happy and they're enjoying their worlds again because they've put up boundaries and they understand the cause and effect. And they're not being tricked into symptom relief because what we've done is we found the underlying root cause, not just trying to say, here's the solution for this one ailment. All the ailments are connected to sleep. And what's disrupting sleep is cortisol. And what's making cortisol too high is technology. It's very logical when you understand it, you digest it, and you process it. But we're so looking for that quick fix, pointing case, Ozempic, right?
Well, we don't want to hear about the technology being the problem because we like our technology and we're addicted to it.
It's not the problem. It's overuse of everything, right? It's everything in moderation. We've always been told everything in moderation is great. The problem is we've never used technology in moderation. We just take it for granted. It's the first thing we pick up in the morning. It's the last thing we're holding at night. And we've got to put some boundaries around it in order to reclaim our humanity.
Yep. So let's just get a couple more lifestyle tips in. So of course, we've talked extensively about technology and just kind of giving ourselves some boundaries around technology. You mentioned getting light first thing in the morning. What other just sort of natural interventions or lifestyle habits can people start incorporating right now that would support their healthy cortisol regulation?
Yeah, absolutely. Our diet is very important.
Okay.
Caloric intake is very, very important to get that right. People always ask me, what's the best diet? And my response is the one you're going to stick to, right? It's really that straightforward. But the easier way to answer the question is learn your calories. Literally, learn how many calories you consume. So track your calories. It's a pain in the butt, but track them for a week or two. You'll be surprised at what you are consuming. and then adjust to the right level, because basically you won't gain weight if the calories you consume are less than the calories you burn. So that's the first one. Be surprised how much olive oil and the different oils that we use in our foods add in terms of the calories to it. And then how much little things add up here and there. So track your calories, which is great. Get calories under control. Next thing is exercise. And again, same question. What's the best exercise? The one you're going to stick to. It's the one you're going to do. But we all know lifting weights is by far the most important thing to do as we age. Why? It's good for bone health, especially osteoporosis is good for muscles, etc. We want to keep that in, but we also want to stretch and make sure our muscles are not tight. We want to kind of elongate the muscles, but we want to keep them stretched out and healthy. So that's good. Walking, fabulous. I'm a big believer of the 15,000 steps a day. If you can do 15,000 steps a day, that's good. The problem with cardio and going crazy on cardio is that you're breaking down the muscle that you're so desperately trying to keep. So be very careful with too much cardio. So those are good things. I'm a big believer in grounding. We put rubber on our feet. I highly recommend watching the Grounding movie. I believe it's free on Netflix or on Amazon. But we are not designed to carry an electrical charge. Humans are not. And we are. And it's primarily because the rubber and the soles on our shoes are preventing us from actually touching the ground and grounding, just like the electrical outlet has a ground. We need to ground. So even if you get outside barefoot, stand, put your feet in the earth, that type of thing, stand on grass, you'll be amazed at how all of a sudden you feel light, you feel energized, things are going in a completely different, life feels differently when you do it. Now there's a joke about hugging trees and all that, but it's all part of the same thing. It's grounding and getting yourself out of having an electrical charge, which is not healthy. So grounding is really good. Big believer in sleep hygiene, as we've spoken about here. And breath work, really good, helps keep you calm. Meditation's very good. Sound healing's very good. Massage is very good. But the two things that are my favorite, and it sounds really cheesy, but it's true because I'm one of those guys that actually is madly in love with his wife, 25 years together. And I still look at her like, she's like, the amazing princess and queen that she is play, like literally play, flirt, do stuff that you did when you were in high school and in college and you played. We are so wrapped up in ourselves and the mortgage and the finances and the family and our parents that are aging, everything, that sometimes we forget to connect. And intimacy, I like to say, is into me, you see. Intimacy, into me, you see. And play, flirt, do stuff that is absolutely fun and just lights you up, because guess what that does to cortisol? It tanks it. It lowers it so quickly. Just like touch, hug someone, hello, shake their hand. Physical touch calms cortisol very quickly. Lots of hugs, intimacy, that is a wonderful way of reducing cortisol. Hug your pets, hug your kids. You'll be amazed at how that calms you down. Everything melts away. Those are the things that I think when I talk about getting our humanity back that we miss. We really do miss. So reconnecting with humans, because if you look outside and you look at people in the mall, most of them are heads down, walking, looking at a screen, and they're not connecting with us. And we've lost that human aspect of our lives. Before we know it, there'll be robots around us and we'll even have less.
Yeah, I challenge folks, next time you go to a restaurant, just look around and usually most people are there in a group of two or more, but how many of them actually have their phones out and are looking at their phones and not each other? You go to any table with a family with little kids and I hate to say it, but more than likely those kids are going to be looking at tablets, not looking at their food or their parents or whatever.
Coloring in on the tablecloth or doing some game. Absolutely. Yeah. And phubbing is a big thing, right? When you're with someone, but I just got to check it and the phone is out. So you haven't got that eye to eye contact. You're not really connecting. You're kind of distracted because I just need to see this. I just need to see this. And it is not true connection. And so, it's being mindful about what you're doing, your actions, your personal space, and how you interact with the natural world around us.
Yeah. Yesterday, when I finished my last video session, like you and I are doing right now, I have a lot of video meetings all day, which is great. I love my job, but it's a lot of screen time. It's a lot of standing and sitting here and looking at a screen and thinking hard. And so after I wrapped up the last one, I went to visit a friend that just moved into a new house. I wanted to see his new house, and we ended up riding motorcycles up and down the coast for half an hour.
Fabulous.
Yeah, and boy, is that therapeutic. and then we wrapped it up, gave each other a nice hug, and home I went. But boy, did I go home feeling nice.
Exactly. Absolutely exactly is what I'm talking about. And we used to do that a lot more. Over the past 30 years, that's kind of faded away for the majority of people. Not everyone, but the majority of people. But just like you, come home, my wife would jump in the car, we'll go for a drive around the mountains here in Boulder, watch the sunset, we come back and go, I feel amazing.
Yeah. Yep. And I got home and my sister-in-law was here, so she watched the kids and my wife and I had a date. So it was all good.
Even better.
All
Even
good.
better.
Yep.
Even better.
Justin, this has been an amazing conversation, very enlightening. I will link, I have your links, which I will include in the show notes for today's episode at thesuperhumanblueprintpodcast.com. But just real quick, verbally, will you tell our listeners the best place to grab your book?
Absolutely. If you go to rebalancehealth.com, you can find the products available there, plus the book. Or if you want to go specifically for the book, you can find it at stressnationbook.com. And I have 2 free courses that I give away for free on that website. One is a 5-day educational course, which is just a simple email that comes to you each day for perimenopause to help explain the cause and effect.
Okay.
And then there is a 1-year health reset course as well that I offer for free, which gives you an e-cortisol guide, a year's worth of SMSs where we just simply text you once a day with a tip, suggestion, very short, non-invasive, to help you, remind you to keep cortisol low and what kind of things you can do to support yourself through that for that day, as well as a video series for the book. We offer basically a 2 to 4 minute video that summarizes the book on that website as well, so that you can use the book and the video to kind of collaborate together so you can get an idea of what the chapters are about.
Okay. Amazing. So folks, you heard the links here. I will also include direct links to those as well as to Justin's social media on the superhumanblueprintpodcast.com. Justin, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate the dialogue and for the education that you have imparted on me and our listeners.
Thank you, Drew. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. Thank you.